Up next, sharing with you what I'm taking to the San Diego Comic-Con art show. Well, hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. I know I haven't posted anything here for a little bit of time, but that's because I've been busy working on all these projects for the upcoming San Diego 2024 Comic-Con art show. And now that I have them all completed, I wanted to spend a few minutes here to share them with you. But before I begin, however, I do want to pass along some sad news to you. You might recall a little bit of time ago, I asked you guys to participate in some fundraising for a gentleman named Boyd Crompton. And I have to tell you that unfortunately, he passed away just a few days ago on a July 4th holiday. Boyd, of course, is known for Trekworks, which he started here on YouTube well over 10 years ago. I happened to stumble across his channel as I was working on a 350 scale Enterprise that had just come out. It was going to be my first lighted project, and I was just desperately trying to find help on electronics and stuff, and happened to stumble across his channel. There really wasn't a lot of great content back then, at least that I could find with model building. But he had such a great easygoing style and laid-back approach, made his videos easy to watch and follow, and I quickly became a subscriber. He inspired me to do and to try new things, constantly showing us how things are not as hard as they appeared to be. Certainly a testament to his great skill and his artistry, and of course, a testament to his ability to teach. He inspired me eventually to start this channel as well, and I know many of you were inspired by him also. So I know that you'll join me here in offering our sincerest condolences to his family. He's going to sorely be missed in our hobby. So just a quick moment now to remember Boyd Crompton. Well, I know that Boyd would want us to continue on to have fun with our hobby, so let's go ahead and move on. And what I have to share with you again are these projects that I have ready for the 2024 Comic-Con art show. So every year, Comic-Con puts on an art show that does not require a pass to get into, by the way. If you are in San Diego and don't have a ticket to Comic-Con, which a lot of people don't. It's an event that attracts well over 150,000 people a year. It's a huge show, and the tickets sell off within that day that they ever have them going on sale. But you don't need a ticket to get into this, as well as some other events that are hosted by a variety of sponsors and production companies that are all along the outside of the show. So if you happen to be down there and want to stop on in, it's at the bottom floor of the Hyatt, and just step on in from the street level and just ask for directions. It really isn't too far from where you step in. So again, the art show is put on every year. It is certainly a way to showcase your work as well as to sell some of your pieces. In fact, I did participate a couple of years ago. This is me hanging some of my pieces there at the art show. It was a lot of fun to do. I skipped last year, but this year I decided to participate again, and what I decided to do was to do something a little different. I'm going to display a couple of paintings, but along with that, I'm going to be displaying a couple of dioramas as well as some 3D printed busts and a figure. I thought it'd be cool to showcase some of the skills that we use both with painting busts and figures as well as model building, and to show that it is also a form of art. Now, as I mentioned, you can sell your pieces there too, and I wanted to let you guys know that I did reach out to the designers of all the 3D printed pieces I'll be displaying there just to get the permission to sell the item. I just felt it was important to reach out to them since they were the ones who designed the piece, and they were all kind enough to allow me to do so. In exchange, I will be listing their contact information in the description of the item, and that way if anybody is interested in getting into 3D printing or finding out where I got those files from, they'll have a point of reference to go from. All right, ready to begin here. Let's get started. So first, let's take a look at the dioramas, and the first one is called Secret Rebel Hideaway. This was inspired by something I've seen on a channel called Boyle Hobby Time. If you're not familiar with it, I'd check it out. He often does these types of projects. This one here includes a 1/144 scale Y-Wing from Bandai, along with 3D printed figures. And the scene is that of a Y-Wing that has just landed and is in need of some maintenance. The landing pad and station are built into the side of a cliff with an ocean below. Now, the pad itself was made using just styrene sheets and rods. After painting it, I tried something a little different for weathering this time. I applied thinned down oils to replicate the look of rust and age, and it worked beautifully.
Now you'll notice that the pad is attached to a tower, and if it looks recognizable, it's because it's a piece from a Space Academy shuttle model. About 6 years ago, I built a kit designed by Larson's Design of the Seeker from Space Academy. Unfortunately, this part of the hull was damaged during shipping and another had to be shipped out. It was such a nice piece and it was a shame to just toss it, so I decided just to place it in my parts drawer, and that is where it has sat ever since. When I was searching for something to connect the landing pad to, I came across the piece, and I thought that the design had a Star Wars feel to it, so after experimenting with it, I decided to use it. The rocks were made of Foamular. This stuff was coated with something called Sculptamold, and after it dried, I primed and painted it, and again reached for the oils to see how they work for weathering and detailing in this case. And the technique did a great job with coloring all of the rocks. Now the ocean was pretty simple. This was done by just first painting the base with various shades of blue. After that was dried, I coated it with gloss medium from Liquitex. Now once that was dried, the blue easily showed through the clear medium, and I just had to hand brush the wave tips with some white paint. I applied a clear gloss coat along the edges of the rocks to mimic a wet appearance. And one final touch was the addition of a small nano SMD from Evans Designs. It's funny that I didn't have any specific plans for creating it, but I really like the way it came together and turned out. I think it's a nice, interesting diorama that catches your interest when you look at it. Moving on to the second diorama, this recreates the scene where Luke falls into the Rancor pit. We all see Luke Skywalker here with that large bone in hand as he braces himself for this impossible conflict, and we all know what happens next. Again, the rocks were made using Foamular, but this time I chose to use air dry clay instead of Sculptamold just to see how they compare. In the end, they look very similar, but I found that the air dry was a little bit easier for me to use. Clay was textured using the scrubbing side of a sponge, and to paint the rocks, I primed it, applied a base color, and again reached for oils as a wash. The gate that you see in the back there was made using Foamular, and to create that cave or the rock face that you see behind it, I actually ended up painting that on some sheet canvas that was glued to the thin styrene backing. Now I've had the files for the Rancor for some time. In fact, I've forgotten where I purchased the files from. Here I printed it to about a 4-inch height, and I'm just not sure about the scales, but I think I got it right here. I just guesstimated. Apparently a Rancor is supposed to be about 16 feet high, and I tried to size Luke accordingly to the Rancor's hand, because we all know that the Rancor ends up picking up in his hand. Now, one thing is that you'll see some slime or saliva dripping from its mouth, and this was really a fun thing to add on. This was done by just using fishing line and allowing some Elmer's clear glue to just drip down and dry in this manner. And it was then glued onto the Rancor's mouth. This was really a lot of fun to design and put together. Again, I really didn't have any specific plans, just had the Rancor. At first I was going to have it rampaging through a village, but I decided on this in the end because it was very recognizable. And moving on to diorama number 3, this is based on an animated series called Over the Garden Wall. My family absolutely loves this show, and I know it has a lot of fans. I thought it would be a unique display, and it was simple to put this one together. The files are designed by 3DG Design from Cults3D.com. The figures are attached to a round wooden base that I found at Michael's and are surrounded by simulated foliage, also found at Michael's. I painted them with yellow and orange colors to mimic the look of fall, as this is a Halloween themed show, and all of this sits on a rectangular piece of Foamular, and that base was finished off with styrene sheets that were painted to mimic the look of wood. Next, we move on to 2 figures. First is this Dream of Jeannie figure designed by UEL on CG Trader. This, of course, is based on the animated opening of the famous TV show, and he does a great job with capturing the likeness of the character. As you can see, it comes with both the smoke and the bottle as well as the figure. It's such a fun little nostalgic piece that I think will also catch some interest from fans from the show. It's just something you just don't see every day. And next we have Aang from the animated series Avatar: The Last Airbender. Such a wonderful animated show that you can still watch on Netflix. I'd highly recommend it. The character here was designed by Godoa and can be found on CG Trader. Really captures a good likeness. Now, there were a couple modifications here. First, the display base. It comes with this base that has the character in the down-facing position, as you see here. Now, I had intended to use that base, but it has the character in that downward gaze, and I really felt that it took a lot away from the design. In that configuration, you just don't get a really good look at his face, and it's a shame because it really does look like him, and it's expressive. So instead, I created a base, again using Foamular, and attached it to a wooden base. This time, I just used acrylic washes instead and added a few pieces of foliage. And now that this is all done, the character is facing in an upward position, and you can see his face, and it goes along with the nice dynamic pose that it was designed with. The second modification I made was to scratch build the staff. The one provided with the sculpt is round, but the staff is actually square with triangular extensions. And this was easily constructed using a styrene square rod. Again, this is a popular show with a lot of fans. I think it'll capture some interest as well. Next, we move on to the bust now, first of which is one of the best looking busts I've ever painted, and that is of Captain Picard. Designed by Antonio Dotto, it is a remarkable resemblance to the famous captain of the Enterprise. I did a video showing how this sculpt was painted. If you're interested, I'll post the link below. This one measures about 6 inches in height, and I used Monument Hobbies for the colors. Also, I used a special painting technique for his skin tones, and again, that is covered in the video. Now, to accompany him, I chose to paint up another of Dotto's designs, and this is of Data. Really nice job capturing his likeness as well. Again, using Monument Hobbies for the colors and my Galeri Mobius airbrush. Together, they make a nice set of Trek busts to display. And here's another one from Dotto. I wanted to try one of his Star Wars sculpts and decided on this one of Han Solo. Although the resemblance is not quite as strong as his others, it's still a pretty decent bust of the famous character. Along with good facial details, Dotto did a great job with his shirt and vest. I printed this one about the same size as Picard and Data. Next up is a bust of Batman from the graphic novel Dark Knight Returns, one of my favorite stories. I had done this one before, but reprinted him larger this time around, again using Monument Hobbies colors, which are nice and vibrant, and I've seen this bust painted many times in grays and blacks, but this time I chose to use the blues and grays instead, and I just felt that this was much more eye-catching. The files can be found on myminifactory.com, and it was designed by Eastman, who also has a Patreon page. It measures nearly 6 inches in height with the base. And lastly, this is one I just finished, and I have to say it really is one of my favorite 3D busts that I've printed so far. This is Superman from the graphic novel The Red Sun. The story is based in an alternate reality in which the superhero lands in the USSR instead, and what things would look like from that point of view. It's a really interesting and ingenious story if you ask me. The sculpt was designed by Bedzerk on CG Trader and is very nicely detailed. The great definition of the chest emblem and the suit, along with the sculpt of the face, really makes this one stand out. I absolutely had a lot of fun painting this one. As I was wrapping things up with these projects, I did want to do a Superman bust that would go along with Batman. At first I had in mind to do a conventional looking sculpt, but came across this one, which again is just not something that you commonly run across. And last but not least, it's time to look at the two paintings I'm showing, the first of which is one you have already seen on the channel. This is a scene from Dune Part 2. I really enjoyed both the first and second parts of this series and felt that this scene would make a nice painting. I tried my best to capture the intensity and also gave it my best shot at depicting the motion in the scene. This painting was done with oils. And this is a painting I just completed. It's a collage of the characters from one of my favorite Star Wars shows, The Bad Batch, which ended its run earlier this year. I tried my best at capturing the likenesses, which I think I accomplished for the most part, with the exception of Echo, who was difficult to do at the size I chose to paint him at. I think that's what presented the most challenge there. Overall, though, I think it turned out well.
Well, I hope you enjoyed following along. It really was fun putting these projects together. I had done most of this over the last 5 to 6 weeks, really. So I was cramped for time trying to fit this in between a lot of stuff that was going on. Of course, we had some travel to do. Another trip recently was to Mexico City for a family wedding. But really exciting news to share with you here is my son just completed his PhD in physics. So that was a lot to celebrate there as well. And so a lot of things going on in the midst of doing all this. So no time to create any videos, unfortunately. One of my favorites was the Y-Wing, and I had a lot of inquiries about whether I was doing a video on that. And that's something I just happened to throw together as I was thinking about dioramas to create for this show. Again, just inspired by Boyle Hobby Time. He does that kind of stuff all the time. So if you haven't followed along his channel, I'd encourage you to do so. But he did something like that. And so just happened to have those Bandai Y-Wings in my stash. I happen to have another one, by the way, as well as a small X-Wing. So I think I'll do another one of those. That was really a lot of fun to put together. All right, so one announcement here. is to let you know about a new segment I'll be creating now for the channel. It's going to be called the Interstellar Academy. And for years now, for some time, I've been wanting to create small tutorial videos that are just about a subject and nothing else. And these can be very short videos that aren't too involved. People often ask a question here or two that often this stuff gets lost within the videos that I'm making. I've tried to create some playlists to direct people to certain videos if they're interested in particular techniques. So I thought it's come time now to put this type of stuff together. So that's what's going to be called the Interstellar Academy, and that's going to be coming up next on the channel. As for model building, I have in mind to get started now with the Rising Star. This, of course, is one of those ships from Battlestar Galactica. That kit is a resin kit from Steve Caricato. So I'm definitely looking forward to putting that one together. All right, guys, thanks again for watching, and I appreciate you as always. Take care, and I will see you then in the next video.